glad you can join us. Here's what's going on. Mark Carney's European charm offensive.
To do that right, to do that properly, we need the best partners.
Forging new alliances with Europe when an old ally is unpredictable.
Why would we throw away this unique wisdom?
Celebrity backers for birds on death row.
What's right? What can I ride? Where can I ride it?
Plus, pumping the brakes on rule breakers.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
The Prime Minister is on the hunt for new friends. To that end, he's now in Berlin after spending Monday in Poland and Sunday in Ukraine. Today, Mark Carney announced a new strategic trade partnership with Warsaw as part of Canada's attempt to draw closer to Europe. CTV's Abigail Beeman is traveling with the Prime Minister and joins us now from Germany. Abigail.
Sandy, the Prime Minister has arrived here in Berlin, the third country on this trip, and just like the other stops, he's talking trade and defense.
The maple leafs on your shoulders, they feel hope.
Prime Minister Mark Carney stressed to Canadian troops in Warsaw and European leaders, Canada is ready to spend big on defense.
We will quadruple our spending on defense between now and the end of the decade.
Not only promising to meet NATO's 2% of GDP spending target by this year, but the new target of 5% by 2030.
We have your backs. We're serious about this.
Carney bringing his defense minister along to many European meetings, including the trip to Ukraine, which marks a shift from the past.
I think what it indicates is that the landscape has changed. I think Canadians know that the landscape has changed, that the geopolitics are changing, that the threat landscape has changed.
David McGuinty says Canada's defense plan needs diversification.
We're not only making a diplomatic visit, but we're really interested in diversifying our alliances and our defense investments, and having Minister McGuinty there puts an exclamation point behind that.
Diversification. We've heard that word a lot from the Prime Minister about trade, too, given the trade war with the United States.
Poland needs reliable partners that are ready to cooperate closely in the nuclear energy sector and also as regards RES, renewable energy sources.
Poland has the fastest growing economy in the EU, and the two leaders recommitted to an agreement signed last year, but now focusing on trade, energy, and defense.
Our trade relationship last year grew by something like 22% in a single year. So the appetite is really there. It also means that people are kind of knocking on our door more.
And from Warsaw, the Prime Minister ends his day here in Berlin with a full day Tuesday focused on those same themes, deepening trade and defense ties. Sandy?
Abigail, thanks so much. Canada's Minister for Canada-U.S. Trade will head to Washington tomorrow to meet with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. This week, today, it was the president of South Korea visiting the White House after negotiating a trade deal. Donald Trump was asked to explain a social media post questioning that country's political stability.
Well, I heard that there were raids on churches over the last few days, very vicious raids on churches by the new government in South Korea.
Trump was asked, President Lee Jae-myung to clarify. The South Korean leader said it hasn't been long since the previous president imposed martial law, sparking a political crisis, and that an investigation was underway. Now, Trump also signed an executive order today creating specialized National Guard units to crack down on crime, and to make the point, he's threatening to send the militia next to other big cities. CTV senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture is in Washington for us today. Okay, Mike, walk us through what the U.S. president said.
Well, the president basically took a victory lap, saying that deploying the National Guard here in the Capitol has resulted in a huge plummet in crime. Now, we haven't seen many members of the National Guard where we are right now in Freedom Plaza, which is between the Capitol building behind me and the White House just over there. But he does say that it has been hugely effective. We also saw over the weekend those troops walking around with weapons. Now, he did also mention that he believes that he could deploy them next to Chicago, calling it a killing field at this point, saying the crime there is so bad that he would step in if he had to. Have a listen.
Chicago is a disaster, and the governor of Illinois should say, President, would you do us the honor of cleaning up our city? We need help. They need help. They need help.
So are you waiting for
We may wait. We may or may not. We may just go in and do it, which is probably what we should do.
All right, no surprise then, Mike, the governor of Illinois responded to Donald Trump this afternoon. What is he saying?
Pritzker essentially repeated some of the stats that we had heard earlier today from the mayor of Chicago, who had said that, look, murders are down 31%, shootings have dropped by 36% year over year, and vehicle thefts were down 26%. And he said, look, they have to be asked for that type of help, the federal government does. And at this point, Pritzker says that is not happening. Have a listen.
What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American.
And Pritzker is threatening to sue the federal government over any type of move to bring the National Guard into Chicago. But the U.S. president has also mused today in the Oval Office that the next cities on his hit list could be New York and Baltimore, which is just an hour north of here. Sandy?
Okay, Mike in Washington. Thanks, Mike. One of Donald Trump's appointees, Dr. Mehmet Oz, has joined forces with American grocery store billionaire John Catsimatidis to condemn Canada's decision to cull more than 400 BC ostriches. The former TV personality, now with the U.S. Centers for Medicine, has offered to save the birds from death row. CTV's Andrew Johnson now on the proceedings and the proposal. Andrew.
Sandy, Dr. Mehmet Oz, familiar to millions before his political career for offering easy-to-understand medical advice, is pitching to save the ostriches in the name of science.
We have an incredible opportunity to advance science. These birds are able to withstand this potentially devastating H5N1 avian flu virus. And why would we throw away this unique wisdom?
From another supporter, New York billionaire John Catsimatidis, a call for common sense to prevail.
You know, the problem is common sense is not all that common. These are ancient, iconic birds. And now, I mean, they deserve to survive.
The ostrich cull was originally ordered last December when birds at the Universal Ostrich Farm in the BC interior tested positive for avian flu. A few dozen of the birds died, close to 400 survived, and the farm has been fighting ever since to save those survivors. They insist are safe.
We have had no illness and no deaths on our farms for 223 days. They are thriving. Our herd of ostriches is a living vault of immunity.
Oz, who is now responsible for U.S. Medicare, says the surviving birds are now resistant to avian flu, and their antibodies should be studied for the good of other animals and humans. He says U.S. health officials are ready to lead that research.
We have an opportunity to do something helpful for Canada, for the United States, and the global community in general.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says even though they appear healthy, the ostriches could still spread the virus. And if they're not killed, the virus could mutate and become more infectious to mammals. As it stands now, after the farm lost its federal appeal last week, the CFIA can move in at any time and destroy the herd. There is no word on when that could happen. Sandy.
Andrew in Vancouver, where temperatures are in the high 20s today, cool by comparison to some parts of BC in the 40s, and most of Alberta with temperatures in the 30s all week long. CTV's Kathy Lee now on the heat, how people are coping, and the concerns. Hi, Kathy.
Sandy, hydrating is going to be key this week in Alberta and BC because of a large ridge of high pressure that's fueling warmer than normal conditions in parts of Western Canada. Environment and Climate Change Canada says a heat warning is in effect for various parts of BC, like the northern interior, areas closer to the coast and to the south of the province. Some regions can see the temperature spike as high as 39 degrees. In Alberta, Edmonton is under a heat warning, and the rest of the province is under a special weather statement.
It is going to be a long stretch of daily highs into that 30-degree range, which is close to a warning criteria, but because of the overnight lows, not quite hitting it.
Even without the warning criteria, the high and prolonged temperatures in Alberta are still going to increase the risk for heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and people are getting ready to try and stay cool.
Hydrate, sunscreen, lots of shade, wearing hats. Just hunker down. I've got lots of inside stuff to get done, so just hang out. Lots of sunscreen, heat protection, hats, all that good stuff.
The hot weather is also going to increase the wildfire risk in both provinces.
We ask folks to be mindful where they're living, check which fire prohibitions are active, and only use open fire safely, ensure that it's not windy, and that you have the tools to put out any fire.
Environment and Climate Change Canada says the hot temperatures are expected to stick around all week. Sandy.
CTV's Kathy Lee. As for those wildfires, the Premier of Nova Scotia is confirming a number of homes have been destroyed.
The Long Lake fire in Annapolis County took a real turn over the weekend, and it's had devastating impacts. There has been some loss of homes.
The exact number damaged in Annapolis County has not been confirmed yet. As for New Brunswick, that province is lifting most fire restrictions, but residents near Black River Bridge are being told to get ready to flee because of a wildfire. The family of a Norwegian hiker found dead in northern Manitoba is traveling to Canada to bring his body home. The remains of Stefan Schutt-Elvik was discovered during a ground search yesterday. The 29-year-old went missing during a 300-kilometer hike that began last month in northern Ontario. He was due to arrive in York Factory, Manitoba on August the 15th, but he never showed up. Family members say they want to thank members of the search crew. Well, the search is underway in Toronto for a missing man in his 20s who fell off a jet ski in Lake Ontario. Toronto police received a call last night about two people falling off a jet ski at Bluffers Park Beach. A woman was able to be rescued by another jet ski, but her male companion was missing. Both were not good swimmers, and only the woman was wearing a life jacket. Now, Toronto police are also involved in an enforcement crackdown over e-scooters. The use of these micro-mobility vehicles is exploding across Canada, but the rules of the road vary from place to place. So today was about safe practices. CTV's Adrian Gobriel now on the blitz and what police want you to take away. Adrian.
Sandy, here in Canada's largest city, e-scooters like the one that just zipped by me aren't even allowed. And across the country, it's a patchwork of bylaws. The signage in Toronto is clear, though it doesn't appear that very many are taking notice. Concerns for public safety have forced Toronto police to launch a weeks-long enforcement campaign aimed at those on e-scooters and e-bikes who are breaking the rules.
Going up on the sidewalk, down on the road, down the wrong way, down a one-way, not wearing helmets.
The popular electric motorized devices are also raising concerns across the country. The Canadian Institute for Health Information says e-scooter injuries have risen from 375 in 2022 to 2023 to 498 in 2023-2024, with the number of children hospitalized increasing by 61% over that time period.
Head injuries, which means lacerations, bad cuts of the head, broken smashed skulls, so with up to a bleed in the brain, broken facial bones, and then all the way down the body.
Emergency room physicians tell CTV News far too many injuries stem from riders not wearing a helmet. Those being hurt also include pedestrians.
I have seen them as patients, and I have a friend who has been struck twice.
In Ontario, you must be 16 years old to ride an e-scooter, though bylaws on micro-mobility vehicles varies from municipality to municipality. In Toronto, e-scooters aren't even allowed on any public roads or paths. Just east of the city in Oshawa and to the west in Brampton, they're permitted under a pilot program. Those caught violating the Highway Traffic Act, again, like the individual who just went by me, could face a fine of up to $350. Sandy.
All right, Adrian in Toronto. Coming up after the break, double trouble for a wrongly deported man. An emotional moment in Maryland where a wrongly deported Salvadoran immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia checked himself into enforcement, ICE, but could face deportation once again. Abrego entered the building surrounded by supporters and hugged his wife before moving through a checkpoint. The 30-year-old was released from custody Friday after more than 5 months in detention. Abrego could be deported to Costa Rica if he pleads guilty to illegally transporting migrants, which he denies. Without a guilty plea, he could be sent to Uganda. Global Affairs Canada says it is horrified and calls an Israeli strike on a hospital in the Gaza Strip unacceptable. At least 20 people were killed, including 5 journalists. According to Hamas, several people were killed in an initial strike, then a second strike hit rescuers and journalists who ran to the scene. The journalists worked with various international outlets, including the Associated Press, Reuters, and Al Jazeera. The Israeli military confirmed that it carried out a strike in the area and that it, quote, regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals and does not target journalists as such. And a terrifying moment in France when a helicopter involved in fighting wildfires crashed. Local officials say there were no fatalities. The helicopter was trying to scoop water to battle a nearby fire when it started to spin out of control. Still ahead, in a league of their own, Canadian women on the world stage. American rapper Lil Nas X pleaded not guilty today to new felony charges filed after his arrest last week. The performer spent the weekend in an LA jail and appeared before a judge this morning. It's alleged he attacked officers when they spotted him strolling along a street naked. The 26-year-old is facing 3 counts of battery and 1 count of resisting arrest. Bail is set at $75,000. Well, this has been an incredible year for Canadian women in sport. The latest major win, comeback kid, golfer Brooke Henderson, who took the spotlight, claiming her 2nd Canadian Open this weekend. And today, young tennis phenom Victoria Mboko took to the court at the U.S. Open. With more on both remarkable athletes, let's bring in CTV's John Vanavali-Rao. Hi, John.
Sandy, it appears Henderson has found her game again, adding to a sensational summer for Canadian women in sport. For Brooke Henderson, it was a moment to embrace after a masterful performance on home soil.
The comeback is complete.
The pride of Smith Falls, Ontario, back on top and showing once more why she's Canada's most successful golfer ever.
This week was beyond special. To be able to finish it off and hoist the trophy again is extremely cool. It feels super surreal still.
The win marking her 14th on the LPGA Tour and ending a 2-year drought. She first won the Canadian Women's Open in 2018, and to do it again at age 27 is remarkable.
I'm just super excited that this actually happened. It's like a dream come true again.
You can't help but reflect on how, the young up-and-coming talent has been inspired by Brooke's accomplishments.
Look at McIntosh go. That accomplishment follows others by women athletes this year.
Isn't she amazing?
Including Toronto's Summer McIntosh, who made a splash in Singapore, claiming 4 gold medals at the World Aquatics Championship. And then there's Victoria Mboko, also 18, who weeks ago stunned the tennis world, winning at the Canadian Open in Montreal. Though today fell short of expectations as she appeared at the U.S. Open for the first time, dominated by her Czech opponent, a 2-time Grand Slam champion. Still, for Canadian women in sport, overall, it's been an incredible and inspirational run.
What we can speak to is hoping that this is going to change participation rates for girls in sport in the future. If they can see it, they can be it, and they can be the next Brooke, Victoria, or Summer.
As for Brooke Henderson, she kept saying her latest victory seems surreal, calling it a huge win for Canada and Canadian golf. Sandy.
Okay, John, thank you for this. As we head to break, a legendary on-screen friendship reunited at a Vancouver Canadians minor league baseball game.
Hey, so we Canada, so we
Matthew Broderick and Alan Ruck, who famously teamed up as best friends in the 1986 classic Ferris Bueller's Day Off, were spotted at the game this weekend, and instead of heckling batters, this time the duo led the crowd in Take Me Out to the Ball Game. They're in Vancouver teaming up again for a new movie, this one called The Best Is Yet to Come. A first for Canada, and the countdown is on for Markham, Ontario's Nord Space to blast a commercial rocket into space. Now, it should happen Wednesday in the small town of St. Lawrence on Newfoundland's peninsula. So let's bring in CTV's Garrett Barry, who's been looking into the company's sky-high ambitions. Okay, over to you.
Sandy, Nord Space hopes to be the first company to offer an all-in-Canada solution for launching commercial satellites into space.
Sovereignty in space means our ability to launch satellites, maybe even humans one day, and make sure that we have our own place in space as Canadians.
Nord Space CEO Raoul Gold says his team is excited and ready to send their Taiga rocket into the sky just as soon as these winds die down. It's a reality of life here in the North Atlantic. Nevertheless, Nord Space has picked this town, population 1,200, to host its Atlantic Spaceport complex.
Someone told me today that this project was going to put St. Lawrence on the map. I said, we're not worried about the map, we're going into space.
The company says it'll spend $10 million in the first phase of development for this location. It gives it access to the most orbit options. Think of those like highway lanes for spacecraft. And here, on the edge of the Atlantic, it's easy to launch east over the water and use the Earth's rotation to build up your speed. Wednesday's event, weather permitting, is set to be a suborbital launch, a demonstration, really, but the company says it's an important step towards building an all-in-Canada space industry.
You can't look away from this sort of socio-political context of what's happening in the world, the big shift in foreign policy that's happened in the United States. And so there's an appetite now to invest in Canadian companies.
When Taiga does go up, it won't stay up for very long, less than a minute. But the company hopes it might reach up to 30,000 feet in that short period of time and turn a lot of heads.
For sure. Okay, Garrett, thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. You can catch Omar later tonight at 11. In the meantime, your local CTV News is coming up. See you tomorrow.